I never thought I'd be writing this, but I need to get it off my chest because the tension in my family right now is suffocating, and I honestly don't know if I did the right thing or if I went too far. My hands are still shaking as I type this. This happened 3 days ago at my parents' house during what was supposed to be a nice family dinner to celebrate my daughter Emma's first birthday. My husband Michael and I were so excited to have everyone together, my parents, my 2 brothers and their families, and my dad's sister, my Aunt Caroline, along with her husband Uncle Jim and their 2 adult children, my cousins Blake and Sophia. For context, I'm 29 and I've been with Michael since college. We've been married for 3 years, and Emma is our first child. She's absolutely perfect. She has Michael's bright blue eyes and my dark curly hair, and she's the light of our lives. Michael is white with very distinctive blue eyes and light brown hair, while I'm biracial. My mom is black, my dad is white. So Emma has this beautiful medium complexion that's slightly darker than mine. Now, Aunt Caroline has always been difficult. She's one of those people who claims she just tells it like it is and doesn't have a filter, which is basically code for being rude and offensive and expecting everyone to just accept it. She's made comments throughout my life about my hair, my career choices, my weight, my relationship, you name it. My dad always makes excuses for her because that's just how she is. And honestly, I've learned to mostly ignore her because engaging just gives her the attention she wants. But what happened at Emma's party crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. Everything was going well at first. Emma was in her high chair, absolutely destroying her smash cake, getting frosting everywhere, and everyone was laughing and taking pictures. Michael was right beside her, filming on his phone, that massive proud dad grin on his face that makes me fall in love with him all over again. The room was full of warmth and love and joy. That's when Aunt Caroline decided to open her mouth. "Well, she's certainly a beautiful baby," she said loudly from across the table, her voice dripping with that particular tone she uses when she's about to say something nasty. Though I have to say, Caroline, I was quite surprised when I first saw her. She doesn't look much like Michael at all, does she? The room went quiet, like horror movie quiet. My mom's fork actually froze halfway to her mouth. Michael stopped recording and looked up, confused. I felt my stomach drop, but I tried to keep my voice steady. "She has Michael's eyes and his smile, Caroline, but thank you for the compliment about her being beautiful." I tried to deflect, to let it go, because it was Emma's day and I didn't want drama, but Caroline wasn't done. She let out this little laugh that made my skin crawl. "Oh, honey, I didn't mean anything by it. It's just that she's so dark. I mean, we all know genetics are funny, but are we absolutely sure about the paternity here?" She laughed again, like this was the funniest joke in the world. Maybe someone had a little fun on the side. I'm just saying, if I were Michael, I might want a paternity test, just to be sure, you know. The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears. My brother Jake actually gasped. Michael's face had gone completely red, and I could see him starting to stand up, probably to defend me, but I put my hand on his arm. Because here's the thing, I was done. I was done with her comments, done with her barely concealed racism, done with her thinking she could say whatever she wanted without consequences, and done with my family enabling her behavior. And more importantly, I remembered something. Something from years ago that Caroline had worked very, very hard to make everyone forget. Something she thought was buried. I stood up slowly, and I looked her right in the eyes. "That's really interesting that you'd bring up paternity tests, Aunt Caroline," I said, my voice calm and clear. "Since you're such an expert on the subject, I imagine you became quite familiar with them. What was it? 28 years ago? Or would you prefer not to talk about that in front of everyone?" The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might actually faint. She went from smug and nasty to absolutely ghost white in about 2 seconds flat. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish, and her hand flew to her throat. I don't. That's not," she stammered. Uncle Jim looked confused. "What's she talking about, Caroline?" My cousin Sophia, who's 27, looked between us with growing concern. "Mom, what is she talking about?" But Blake, my 29-year-old cousin, had gone very still. Very, very still. And I realized that maybe, just maybe, he knew, or at least suspected. Nothing, Caroline managed to choke out. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Ancient history. Nothing important. Nothing important? I repeated, and I could hear the edge in my voice now. My mom was making frantic stop gestures at me, but I was past the point of no return. You just accused me, in front of my entire family, of cheating on my husband. You suggested my daughter isn't his, and you think you can just do that without consequences. You think you can just throw stones when you live in the biggest glass house of all? What the hell is going on? My brother Marcus demanded. Someone better start explaining. I looked at my dad. His face had gone pale too, and I realized he knew exactly what I was talking about. Of course he did. He'd been there. Dad, I said, do you want to tell them or should I? Sophie, don't, my dad said quietly. This isn't the time or place. She made it the time and place. I shot back. She's the one who decided Emma's birthday party was the perfect venue to accuse me of infidelity and question my daughter's parentage. So no, Dad, I don't think I'm the one who gets to be told this isn't the time or place. Aunt Caroline stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. I'm leaving. Jim, get your coat. Kids, we're going. Sit down. I didn't shout it. I said it quietly, but with enough force that everyone froze, even Caroline. You don't get to run away from this, I continued. You don't get to drop a bomb like that on my family, on my husband, on my daughter's birthday, and then just leave without consequences. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to sit back down and you're going to hear this. And then, if you still want to leave, you can leave. But you're going to face this first. Maybe it was the tone of my voice, or maybe it was shock, but Caroline actually sat back down. She looked like she was going to be sick. Michael leaned over and whispered, Baby, what's happening? What are you talking about? I squeezed his hand. Just trust me, okay? She needs to hear this. I turned back to the table, where everyone was staring at me with various expressions of confusion, shock, and, in my parents' case, resignation. When I was about 10 years old, I began, I was staying over at Grandma and Grandpa's house, Dad's parents. I woke up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, and I heard voices downstairs. Loud, angry voices. I crept to the top of the stairs and I listened. I could see my dad close his eyes, remembering. It was Grandma, Grandpa, my dad, and Aunt Caroline, and they were arguing about something that I didn't fully understand at the time, but I remembered. I've always remembered. Do you know why I remembered Aunt Caroline? She didn't answer. She was staring at the table, her hands clenched into fists. I remembered because Grandma was crying. I'd never heard my grandmother cry before. And she was saying something about lies and betrayal, and how could you do this to him? And I remember Grandpa saying that Jim had a right to know the truth. And I remember you, Aunt Caroline, screaming that you'd done what you had to do and that it was nobody's business but yours. Sophia's face had gone white now, too. Mom, what is she talking about? I went back to bed that night confused, I continued. And honestly, I kind of forgot about it for years. It was just this weird memory from childhood. But then, when I was in high school, I overheard my mom and dad talking one night. They didn't know I was home. And my mom was saying how sad it was that you and Uncle Jim's marriage had almost ended all those years ago, and how it was probably for the best that he'd never found out the truth about Blake. Blake stood up so fast his chair fell over backwards. What? He said, his voice cracking. What about me? The room erupted into chaos. Uncle Jim was demanding answers, Sophia was crying, Blake looked like he'd been punched in the gut, and Caroline was just sitting there completely frozen. Enough! Uncle Jim roared and everyone went quiet. He turned to Caroline and I'd never seen him look so intense. Caroline, what is she talking about? What about Blake? Caroline's eyes were streaming with tears now, her mascara running down her cheeks. Jim, it was 30 years ago. We weren't. I didn't. Say it, I said coldly. Say what you did. Say what you made my grandparents complicit in. Say what my dad has kept secret for you all these years, even though it ate him up inside. You bitch, Caroline hissed at me, and there was real venom in her voice now. "You vindictive little bitch." "I'm a bitch." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You just told my husband that he should get a paternity test for our daughter. You implied that I'm a cheater and a liar in front of my entire family. At my daughter's first birthday party. And I'm the bitch for reminding you that you actually did the thing you're accusing me of." Michael's hand found mine and gripped it tight. He still looked confused, but he was standing by me, and I loved him so much in that moment. Blake's voice was shaking when he spoke. Dad's not my dad." The devastation in his voice almost made me regret this. Almost. But then I looked at my sweet daughter, covered in cake and looking around at all the shouting with wide, confused eyes, and I remembered why I was doing this. Because nobody was going to talk about my child like that. Nobody was going to question her parentage or my fidelity, not without consequences. Caroline was full-on sobbing now. "Blake, honey, Jim is your father in every way that matters. He raised you, he loves you. But he's not my biological father." Blake's voice was flat dead. "That's what she's saying. That's what you're not denying." Uncle Jim had sat down heavily, like his legs wouldn't hold him anymore. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. "How long?" he asked quietly. "How long have you known?" "I didn't know for sure," Caroline choked out. "Not for sure, it was just, there was a possibility." "Who?" Jim's voice was barely a whisper. "Who was it?" Caroline shook her head frantically. "It doesn't matter, he's gone. He died years ago." "It doesn't matter. The hell it doesn't matter," Blake shouted. "Who's my biological father, Mom? Who?" This was spiraling out of control fast, and I realized that maybe, just maybe, I'd unleashed something bigger than I'd intended. But there was no taking it back now. Pandora's box was open, and all the ugly truth was spilling out. My dad finally spoke up, his voice heavy with decades of carrying this secret. "It was her boss," he said quietly. "Back when you two were first married. You were working those long hours at the factory, Jim, remember? Trying to save up for a house. Caroline was working as a secretary for that real estate company." "Dennis," Jim said suddenly, the name coming to him like a curse. "Dennis Hartwell. Jesus Christ, Caroline him." "She didn't deny it. And you knew." Jim turned to my dad, betrayal written all over his face. "You knew all this time and you never told me." "She's my sister," my dad said miserably. "And my parents. They said it would destroy your family." That Blake was innocent and deserved to have his family intact. They made me promise never to say anything. "That wasn't your decision to make," Jim roared, standing up. "None of you had the right to make that decision for me. That's my life, my marriage, my son." He stopped, corrected himself with visible pain. "The boy I thought was my son." "I am your son," Blake's voice cracked. "Dad, I'm your son. DNA doesn't change that." But Jim just shook his head, looking completely shattered. I need to get out of here. I can't breathe." He left, just walked out of the house, and we heard his car start up and drive away moments later. Sophia was still crying, looking at her mother like she'd never seen her before. "How could you?" she whispered. "How could you lie to him all these years? How could you lie to Blake?" "I was protecting our family." Caroline screamed, and there was a desperate, wild quality to her voice now. "We were happy. We've been happy." This didn't need to come out. It was buried and done with, and it didn't need to come out. "You made it come out," I said, and my voice sounded tired now, drained. "You made it come out when you decided to attack me and my family." "You did this, Caroline, not me, you." Blake was staring at me now, and I couldn't quite read his expression. Anger, betrayal, gratitude, maybe all three. "Did you know?" he asked me. "For sure, or were you just guessing?" I met his eyes. I had enough pieces to put it together. The argument I overheard, the conversation between my parents, and I hesitated. "You don't look anything like Uncle Jim, Blake. You never have. And you look exactly like the photos I've seen of Dennis Hartwell." My mom has old company photos from when she worked for the same real estate company years later. I saw them when I was helping her clean out her office. I saw Dennis Hartwell in those photos, and I saw you. Blake laughed, but it was a broken sound. "So everyone knew or suspected, everyone except me and Dad." I didn't know, Sophia said quietly. Blake, I swear I didn't know. I know, Soph. Blake ran his hands through his hair, looking lost. God, I need to think. I need to process this. He left too, walking out without another word. Sophia gave her mother one more devastated look and then followed her brother. And then it was just me, Michael, my parents, my brothers and their families, who had been dead silent through all of this, and Caroline, who was still crying at the table. My mom was the first to speak. Sophie, that was. I understand why you did it, but that was. Don't, I said, cutting her off. Don't you dare tell me I was wrong. She came into your home on my daughter's birthday and essentially called me a whore. She tried to plant seeds of doubt in my husband's mind about whether his daughter is really his. Because why? Because Emma has darker skin than Michael. Because I'm biracial and my daughter shows that heritage. She was being racist and cruel, and I'm not going to apologize for defending myself and my family. You could have just asked her to leave, my dad said wearily. You didn't have to nuke her entire life. Her life was already built on a lie, I shot back. I just brought the truth to light. And maybe if you all hadn't enabled her terrible behavior for decades, maybe if someone had held her accountable for the cruel things she says before, we wouldn't be here. But everyone always just lets her get away with it because that's just how Caroline is. Well, this is just how I am. I don't let people attack my family without consequences. Michael cleared his throat. For what it's worth, I support Sophie completely. What Caroline said was unforgivable. Emma is my daughter. I've never doubted that for a second, and the fact that Caroline would try to imply otherwise is disgusting. If this is what it took to make her face her own hypocrisy, then so be it. I could have kissed him right there. Actually, I did kiss him, right on the mouth, in front of everyone. Caroline finally stood up, gathering her purse with shaking hands. She looked at me with such hatred that it was almost physical. I will never forgive you for this, she said, her voice venomous. You've destroyed my family. I hope you're happy. You destroyed your own family, I replied calmly. 30 years ago when you cheated on your husband and lied about your son's paternity. And then again today when you decided to project your own guilt onto me. This is on you, Caroline, all of it. She left without another word, and the slam of the front door echoed through the house. The silence that followed was oppressive. Emma, bless her, chose that moment to start fussing, covered in cake and tired and ready for a nap. I lifted her out of her high chair and held her close, feeling her small, warm weight against my chest, reminding myself why I'd done this. I think we should go, I said quietly to Michael. I think we've celebrated enough for one day. Nobody argued with us. My brother Marcus stopped us at the door. Hey, he said, looking uncomfortable. I just wanted to say, I get it, why you did it. Caroline's always been awful to you, and what she said today was way over the line. But Blake and Sophia, they didn't deserve to have their world blown up like that. You're right, I agreed. They didn't. Just like Emma didn't deserve to have her birthday party ruined by Caroline's racist implications about her parentage. Just like Michael didn't deserve to be told he should get a paternity test for his own daughter. Nobody in this situation deserved what they got except Caroline herself. But here we are. Marcus nodded slowly. Yeah, here we are. The drive home was quiet. Michael drove while I sat in the back with Emma, who fell asleep in her car seat almost immediately, her face still sticky with frosting. I watched her sleep and wondered if I'd done the right thing, if I'd gone too far, if there had been a better way to handle it. When we got home and put Emma down for her nap, Michael and I finally had a chance to really talk. Are you okay? He asked, pulling me into his arms on the couch. I don't know, I admitted. I don't regret defending us, but I keep thinking about Blake's face. He looked so devastated. He deserved to know the truth, Michael said firmly. Maybe not like that, maybe not today, but he deserved to know. And Jim definitely deserved to know. They've been living a lie for almost 30 years because Caroline's a coward. My dad's going to be mad at me for a long time, I said. I broke the family's big secret. It wasn't his secret to keep, Michael pointed out. And it wasn't fair of his parents to make him keep it. That's a hell of a burden to carry for your entire adult life. I sighed and snuggled closer to him. Do you think I'm a bad person? I think you're a mother who defended her child, Michael said, kissing the top of my head. I think you're a wife who stood up for her marriage. And I think you're a woman who finally hit her limit with someone who's been emotionally abusing you for years. So no, I don't think you're a bad person. I think you're exactly the kind of person I want raising our daughter, someone who won't let anyone push her around or make her feel less than. I started crying then, big heaving sobs of relief and stress and leftover adrenaline. Michael just held me and let me cry it out. That was 3 days ago. Since then, my phone has been blowing up constantly. My mom has called and texted multiple times, alternating between understanding my reaction and begging me to smooth things over with Caroline. I haven't responded yet because I don't know what to say. How do I smooth over the truth? My dad sent one text that just said, "We need to talk about boundaries and family loyalty." I haven't responded to that either because honestly, I'm still angry at him. He kept this secret that affected so many people's lives because of some misguided sense of family loyalty, and he's enabled Caroline's behavior for years. Marcus and Jake have both reached out. Marcus is sympathetic but worried about the family fallout. Jake straight up said that Caroline had it coming and he's proud of me for standing up to her. His wife agrees, apparently. I haven't heard anything from Caroline, Jim, or Sophia, but I have heard from Blake. He called me yesterday. I almost didn't answer, but Michael encouraged me to take it. "Hey," Blake said when I picked up. He sounded exhausted. "Hey," I replied cautiously. "How are you holding up?" He laughed bitterly. I've been better. I've been a lot better. Blake, I'm sorry." "Don't," he cut me off. "Don't apologize. I've been thinking a lot over the past few days, and you know what I realized? I'm not mad at you. I mean, I was at first. I was furious. But then I really thought about it, and you didn't do this. Mom did, and everyone who kept her secret did. You just refused to let her get away with it anymore." I felt tears prickling at my eyes again. She shouldn't have said what she said about Emma. No, she really shouldn't have, Blake agreed. That was cruel and racist and completely uncalled for. And the irony of her, of all people, questioning someone else's kid's paternity. That's almost funny, almost. "Have you talked to Jim?" I asked carefully. "Dad," Blake corrected firmly. "He's my dad, biology be damned, and yeah, we've talked. A lot. It's been rough. He's hurt and angry and feels betrayed, which is completely valid. But he's also been very clear that I'm his son and nothing changes that. He's more angry at Mom and at your dad and grandparents for lying to him all these years than he is about about what happened." "That's good," I said, relief flooding through me. "I was so worried that I'd ruined your relationship with him." "You didn't ruin anything," Blake said firmly. "Mom did that 30 years ago. You just brought it to light. And honestly, Sophie, I deserve to know. I'm almost 30 years old and I had a right to know the truth about my own parentage. The fact that I had to find out like that in front of everyone at a birthday party, that sucks. But I still deserve to know." "What about Caroline?" I asked. Blake was quiet for a moment. "I don't know. I haven't talked to her since that night. She's been trying to call me, texting me, but I can't right now. Every time I think about talking to her, I get so angry. She lied to me my entire life. And apparently she was fine just letting that lie continue forever. If you hadn't said something, I might have never known. For what it's worth, I didn't plan it," I admitted. "I wasn't going into that party thinking I was going to blow up her secret. But when she said what she said, I snapped. And I remembered what I knew about her past, and it just came out." "I'm glad it did," Blake said. "I mean, I'm not glad about how it happened or when it happened, but I'm glad I know the truth now. Dad and I are actually going to do a DNA test just to confirm, and then we're going to try to find out more about Dennis Hartwell. I want to know about my biological father, even if he's dead. I deserve to know that story." "You do," I agreed. "You absolutely do. Sophia's having a harder time with it," Blake continued. "She's angry at Mom, but she's also angry at you. She thinks you could have handled it differently, that you didn't need to blow everything up like that. I understand, I said, and I did. Sophia had always been closer to Caroline than Blake was. This had to be shattering for her. She'll come around, Blake said. Or she won't, but that's on her to process. Anyway, I just wanted to call and let you know that I don't blame you. And to say thank you, actually. Thank you, I repeated, surprised. Yeah, thank you for standing up for yourself and for Emma. Thank you for not letting Mom get away with her toxic behavior anymore. And thank you for caring enough about the truth to bring it to light, even though you knew it would cause problems. That took guts. We talked for a few more minutes before hanging up, and I felt a little bit lighter after that conversation. At least Blake didn't hate me, but the family fallout is far from over. My mom called again this morning, and this time I answered. Sophie, honey, we need to talk about what happened, she started immediately. Okay, let's talk, I said. Caroline is devastated. Her marriage might be ending, her son won't speak to her, and Sophia is barely speaking to her. She's talking about moving away, leaving the state entirely. Mom, I'm sorry that Caroline is dealing with the consequences of her own actions, but I'm not going to apologize for what I said. She brought this on herself. She made one racist comment about my daughter, I interrupted. One comment questioning my fidelity and my daughter's parentage in front of my entire family, including my husband. That's not just one comment, Mom. That's a calculated attack designed to humiliate me. Caroline's not racist. Mom, yes she is, I said flatly. Maybe she doesn't go around using slurs or burning crosses, but she absolutely has issues with race. She's made comments about my hair, my skin, my features my entire life. She's always treated me as less than because I'm biracial. And now she's doing the same thing to my daughter. I'm not going to expose Emma to that toxicity. My mom was quiet for a long moment. You're right, she finally said, so quietly I almost missed it. What? You're right, she repeated, louder this time. I've made excuses for Caroline for years because it was easier than confronting her. We all have. And we've let her make you feel bad about yourself, about your identity, and that was wrong. I'm sorry, Sophie. I should have stood up for you a long time ago. I felt tears welling up. Thanks, Mom. That means a lot. But honey, your dad is really upset. He feels like you betrayed the family by revealing that secret. His parents made him promise to keep it, and now that promise is broken. His parents were wrong to ask him to keep that secret, I said firmly. And Dad was wrong to keep it. Jim and Blake deserved to know the truth. The fact that everyone decided to lie to them for 30 years to protect Caroline doesn't make it right. I know, Mom sighed. I've been telling your father the same thing, but he's stubborn. He feels like family loyalty means keeping secrets, even painful ones. Family loyalty should mean honesty and respect, I countered. It should mean holding each other accountable when we do wrong, not covering for each other's mistakes. When did you get so wise? Mom asked, and I could hear the smile in her voice. I became a mother, I said simply. And I realized that I need to be the kind of person I want Emma to grow up to be. Someone who stands up for herself. Someone who doesn't let people treat her badly just to keep the peace. Someone who values truth over comfort. I'm proud of you, Mom said. Even if the way it all came out was messy, I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself and your family. We talked for a bit longer, and by the time we hung up, I felt like at least I had my mom in my corner. But my dad is another story. He called a few hours after I talked to Mom. Sophie, we need to discuss what you did, he started, his voice stern in that way that used to make me shrink when I was a kid. But I'm not a kid anymore. Okay, Dad, let's discuss it. You had no right to reveal Caroline's secret like that. That was private family business that had been settled decades ago. Settled? I repeated incredulously. Dad, it wasn't settled. It was buried. There's a difference. Jim never knew his wife cheated on him. Blake never knew Jim wasn't his biological father. That's not settled, that's hidden. It was hidden for a good reason, Dad insisted. To protect the family, to keep Blake's family together. But it wasn't your decision to make, I said, my voice rising. And it wasn't Grandma and Grandpa's decision to make either. The only people who had the right to decide what to do with that information were Caroline, and she should have told Jim the truth. By keeping her secret, you all became complicit in her lie. She's my sister, and Jim is your brother-in-law. Blake is your nephew. Didn't you think they deserved the truth? Didn't you think about how unfair it was to them? Of course I did. Dad's voice cracked. Do you think that was easy for me? Do you think I enjoyed keeping that secret? It ate at me for years, Sophie, years. But my parents begged me to keep quiet, and Caroline begged me, and I didn't want to be the one to destroy their family. But you were fine with letting that family be built on a foundation of lies. Dad was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was tired. When you put it like that, I don't have a good answer. At the time, it seemed like the right thing to do, the kind thing. Blake was just a baby, and Jim was so happy. Caroline swore it would never happen again, that she'd be a good wife, a good mother. And she has been. Except for the lying part, I pointed out, and the being cruel to people part, and the making racist comments part. Dad sighed heavily. I know she can be difficult. Difficult? I laughed bitterly. Dad, she's been emotionally abusive to me for my entire life. She's made comments about my race, my appearance, my choices, everything. And everyone just lets her because that's just Caroline. But it's not okay. It's never been okay, and I'm done pretending it is. What she said about Emma was out of line, Dad admitted. I'm not defending that. But you're defending everything else. You're defending her affair, her lies, her decades of deceit. I'm not defending any of it, Dad said, frustration clear in his voice. I'm just saying that you could have handled it differently. You could have pulled her aside, talked to her privately, made your point without blowing up her entire life in front of everyone. You mean like how she could have not questioned my daughter's paternity in front of everyone? I shot back. Why is the onus always on me to be the bigger person, to handle things delicately, to protect Caroline's feelings? What about my feelings? What about Emma's future, knowing that her great-aunt thinks there's something wrong with her because of her skin color? Dad didn't have an answer for that. I love you, Dad, I continued, my voice softer now, but I'm disappointed in you. You've enabled Caroline's behavior for years, and you've kept a secret that wasn't yours to keep. And now you're more concerned with smoothing things over and keeping the peace than you are with addressing the actual issues. That's not the kind of example I want to set for Emma. So what, we're just going to let the family fall apart? Dad asked, and he sounded genuinely distressed. If the family can't survive the truth, then maybe it needed to fall apart, I said. Maybe we need to build something new, something based on honesty and respect instead of secrets and rug sweeping. We didn't really resolve anything on that call. Dad asked me to consider apologizing to Caroline, and I refused. I told him I'd be happy to have a relationship with him and Mom, but that I wouldn't be around Caroline anymore, and I wouldn't expose Emma to her. He wasn't happy about it, but he accepted it. Now it's been 3 days since the party, and I'm still processing everything. Michael has been absolutely amazing through all of this, completely supportive and standing by my side. Emma, bless her, is oblivious to all the drama and is just happy playing with her birthday toys. I've been doing a lot of thinking about what kind of family I want Emma to grow up with. And I've realized that I don't want her to grow up thinking that family means tolerating abuse. I don't want her to learn that keeping the peace is more important than standing up for yourself. I don't want her to internalize the kind of racist comments that Caroline has made to me over the years. So I've made some decisions. First, I'm going no contact with Caroline for the foreseeable future. Maybe forever. I don't know yet. But I do know that I'm not going to subject myself or my daughter to her toxicity anymore. Second, I'm setting firm boundaries with my parents. They're welcome to have a relationship with Emma, but they need to respect my decision about Caroline. No surprise visits where Caroline happens to show up. No guilting me about family holidays. No pressuring me to reconcile. Third, I'm going to reach out to Blake and let him know that I'm here if he needs support. This whole situation has been hardest on him and Jim, and they're the innocent parties in all of this. And fourth, I'm going to stop feeling guilty about what happened. I've been tearing myself apart wondering if I should have handled it differently, if I went too far, if I'm a bad person for exposing Caroline's secret. But the truth is, I didn't do anything wrong. Caroline attacked my family, and I defended us. She happened to have skeletons in her closet that made her attack hypocritical, and I pointed that out. That's on her, not me. I shared all of this with Michael last night, and he agreed completely. He also pointed out something I hadn't considered. Emma is going to grow up knowing that her mother won't tolerate anyone treating her badly. She's going to grow up with the example of a mother who stands up for herself and her family. And that's a good example to set. This morning, I got an unexpected text from Sophia. It was the first time I'd heard from her since the party. I'm still processing everything, and I'm not ready to talk yet. But I wanted you to know that I've been thinking a lot about things Mom has said and done over the years, and I'm starting to see patterns I didn't see before. I'm not ready to say you were right, but I'm not ready to say you were wrong either. I just need time. I wrote back, take all the time you need. I understand this is hard for you, and I'm sorry you got caught in the middle of it. I'm here if you ever want to talk. She didn't respond, but I didn't expect her to. It's a start. I also got a Facebook message from Jim. That was even more unexpected. Sophie, I wanted to reach out and let you know that while the way the truth came out was shocking and painful, I'm grateful to finally know. I've spent 30 years with this vague, nagging feeling that something was off, that there were secrets in my marriage I wasn't privy to. I feel like I can finally trust my own instincts now. Blake and I are working through this together, and we're going to be okay. Our relationship is strong enough to survive this. I don't blame you for what you did. Caroline made her choices, and she's the one who has to live with the consequences. Thank you for caring enough about the truth to bring it to light. I cried when I read that, actual tears of relief. I'd been so worried that Jim would hate me, that I'd destroyed his relationship with Blake, that I'd ruined lives. But instead, he was thanking me. I'm sharing all of this because I need people to understand the full context. This wasn't just about me getting revenge on someone who was mean to me. This wasn't just about a petty family squabble. This was about years of accumulated toxicity, racist microaggressions, emotional abuse, and enabling. This was about a woman who has never faced consequences for her behavior finally being held accountable. This was about the truth coming to light after 30 years of lies. Could I have handled it differently? Maybe. Probably. I could have pulled Caroline aside and confronted her privately. I could have just asked her to leave. I could have let it roll off my back like I've done 100 times before. But I didn't, and I don't regret it, because Emma deserves better. She deserves to grow up in a family that respects her, that values her, that celebrates her heritage instead of treating it like something wrong or shameful. She deserves to grow up knowing that her mother will always stand up for her, no matter what. And Michael deserves better. He deserves not to have seeds of doubt planted about his daughter's parentage by someone who has no right to question it. And honestly, I deserve better. I deserve to not have to tolerate someone's cruel comments just because we share DNA. I deserve to set boundaries and have them respected. I deserve to stand up for myself without being made to feel guilty about it. So yeah, I made my aunt go pale by making her remember her own secrets when she tried to attack mine. I exposed a 30-year-old lie that maybe should have stayed buried for the sake of family peace. I caused a massive family rift that may never fully heal. And I'd do it again. Because the alternative was letting Caroline think she could say whatever she wanted without consequences. The alternative was letting my daughter grow up thinking that kind of behavior is acceptable. The alternative was teaching Emma that sometimes you have to swallow your dignity and accept mistreatment for the sake of family harmony. And that's not a lesson I'm willing to teach. Some people might think I'm a bad person for what I did. Some people might think I went too far, that I was cruel, that I should have been the bigger person. But I think I was exactly the person I needed to be in that moment. A mother protecting her child, a wife defending her marriage, a woman who finally said enough. And if that makes me the villain in Caroline's story, I can live with that, because I'm the hero in Emma's story, and that's what really matters. I didn't expect to update this so soon, but enough has happened that I feel like I owe you all closure on this situation. Yesterday afternoon, my dad showed up at our house unannounced. Michael was at work, and I was home with Emma, and when I saw my dad's car pull up, I felt my stomach drop. I was expecting another lecture about family loyalty and keeping the peace. Instead, my dad looked like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes were red-rimmed, and he seemed smaller somehow older. "Can we talk?" he asked, and his voice was so defeated that I couldn't say no. I let him in, got Emma set up with her toys in the playpen where I could see her, and sat down with my dad at the kitchen table. "I've been thinking a lot," he started, not meeting my eyes. "About what you said. About the secret, about enabling Caroline, about all of it." I didn't say anything, just waited for him to continue. "You were right," he said, and his voice cracked. "About everything. I've been carrying this secret for 30 years, and I told myself I was doing it to protect Blake, to protect their family. But really, I was just taking the easy way out. I was protecting Caroline from the consequences of her own actions, and I was protecting myself from having to deal with the fallout." "Dad, no, let me finish," he interrupted. "I've watched Caroline treat you terribly for years. The comments about your hair, your skin, your choices. And I'd tell myself it wasn't that bad. She didn't mean anything by it, that's just how she is. But it was that bad. It was racist and cruel and toxic, and I should have shut it down. I should have protected you. You're my daughter, and I should have protected you." He was crying now, actual tears running down his face, and I'd never seen my father cry before. "When you were a little girl," he continued, "I used to have these dreams about the kind of man I'd be as your father. I wanted to be strong, protective, someone you could always count on, and instead I let you down. I let my sister treat you badly because it was easier than standing up to her. And I kept a secret that I had no right to keep because my parents asked me to, and I didn't want to rock the boat. Dad, you were put in an impossible position. That doesn't excuse it," he said firmly. "I made choices, bad choices, and those choices hurt people. They hurt you, they hurt Jim, they hurt Blake, and I need to own that." We sat in silence for a moment, and I felt years of resentment and hurt starting to crack. "I talked to Blake yesterday," Dad continued, "for a long time, and he told me something that really stuck with me. He said that he'd rather have a painful truth than a comfortable lie, that he's angry about the lie, but he's grateful for the truth, even though it hurts. He said something similar to me," I said quietly. "He also said that you showed more courage in 5 minutes than the rest of us have shown in 30 years, Dad said, finally meeting my eyes. "And he's right. You stood up for what was right, even though you knew it would cause problems. Even though you knew people would be angry with you, that takes real strength." "I didn't feel strong," I admitted. "I felt angry and hurt and like I was going to be sick. But you did it anyway," Dad pointed out. "That's what courage is. Not the absence of fear, but acting in spite of it." Emma chose that moment to toddle over, her little arms reaching for Grandpa. Dad scooped her up, and I watched as his face softened, as 30 years of regret and pain seemed to melt away for just a moment as he held his granddaughter. "She's beautiful," he said softly. "She looks like you did at this age. Same eyes, same smile." "She has Michael's eyes," I corrected gently. "She has your spirit," Dad said. "I can already see it. She's going to be strong and brave and not take crap from anyone, just like her mama." I started crying then, big messy tears that I'd been holding in for days. "I'm sorry," Dad said, holding Emma with one arm and reaching for my hand with the other. "I'm so sorry for everything. For keeping the secret, for enabling Caroline, for not protecting you the way I should have. For making you feel like you were the problem when you stood up for yourself." "I forgive you," I said, because what else could I say? He was my dad, he was genuinely remorseful, and he was trying to do better. "But things need to change, Dad." "They will," he promised. "I've already told Caroline that I won't be keeping any more of her secrets. I told her that what she said about Emma was unforgivable, and that she owes you and Michael a genuine apology. I also told her that she needs to get therapy to address her issues with race and her tendency to lash out at others. How did she take that? I asked. Dad laughed bitterly. About as well as you'd expect. She hung up on me. But I meant what I said. I'm done enabling her. I'm done choosing her comfort over other people's well-being. We talked for another hour, really talked, in a way we hadn't in years. Dad opened up about how hard it had been to keep the secret, how it had affected his relationship with his parents, who had passed away 5 and 10 years ago, respectively. How guilty he'd felt every time he saw Jim and Blake together. He also shared something I hadn't known. Apparently, this wasn't the first time Caroline had caused major family drama. There had been incidents throughout the years. A bridesmaid she'd bullied so badly the woman quit the wedding party. A falling out with our grandmother over something Caroline had said. Multiple jobs she'd lost due to conflicts with coworkers. The family had a pattern of smoothing things over, making excuses, blaming everyone but Caroline. We created a monster, Dad said bluntly. By never holding her accountable, we taught her that she could do or say whatever she wanted without consequences, and the person she became. That's partly on us. It was sobering to hear, but also validating. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't too sensitive. Caroline really was that bad, and the family really had been enabling her. When Dad finally left, he hugged me tight and whispered, "I'm proud of you." I should have said that days ago. I'm proud of the woman you've become, the mother you are, and the strength you showed. Don't ever apologize for standing up for yourself and your family. I ugly cried for about 20 minutes after he left. Michael came home to find me on the couch, surrounded by used tissues, with Emma happily destroying a cardboard box next to me. Should I be worried? He asked, settling down next to me. I told him about my dad's visit, and Michael held me while I processed all of it. Your dad's a good man, Michael said. He made mistakes, but he's owning them and trying to do better. That counts for a lot. I know, I sniffled. I didn't realize how much I needed to hear him say those things. That he was sorry, that he was proud of me, that I wasn't wrong to do what I did. You were never wrong, Michael said firmly. Not for a second. Then this morning, something else happened that I'm still processing. Caroline called me. I stared at my phone for a solid minute, watching it ring, debating whether to answer. Finally, I picked up. Sophie. Her voice was hoarse, like she'd been crying for days, which she probably had been. Caroline, she paused, and I heard her take a shaky breath. I owe you an apology. I didn't say anything, just waited. What I said at Emma's party was cruel and uncalled for and racist, and I am deeply sorry. You didn't deserve that. Michael didn't deserve that. Emma didn't deserve that. It sounded rehearsed, like she'd practiced it, but it also sounded sincere. Okay, I said cautiously. I've been doing a lot of thinking over the past few days, Caroline continued. About the things I've said and done, about the way I treat people, and I'm starting to see patterns that I don't like. My husband has left me, at least temporarily. My son won't speak to me. My daughter barely speaks to me. I've lost my brother's respect. And it's all because of my own actions, my own choices. Yes, I agreed, because there was no point in sugarcoating it. I want to blame you, she admitted. It would be so easy to make you the villain in this story, to say that you vindictively destroyed my life over one comment. But the truth is, you just held up a mirror and made me see what I've become, and I don't like what I see. I didn't know what to say to that, so I stayed quiet. I'm starting therapy, Caroline said. Next week, I'm going to work on all of this. My issues with race, my tendency to lash out, my inability to take responsibility for my actions. I don't know if it will help, but I need to try. That's good, I said, and I meant it. I think that's a really positive step. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Caroline continued. I know I don't deserve it, and I know it will take a long time to earn back anyone's trust if I ever can. But I wanted you to know that I'm sorry, and I'm going to try to do better. I appreciate that, I said carefully. And for what it's worth, I hope therapy helps. I hope you can work through your issues and become a healthier person. Can I ask you something? Caroline's voice was small, uncertain. Sure. Do you think Blake will ever forgive me? I thought about that for a moment. I don't know, I said honestly. What you did lying to him about his paternity for his entire life, that's huge. That's a fundamental betrayal of trust. But Blake is a good person and he loves you. Whether that love is enough to overcome this, I can't say. That's between you and him. I know, Caroline said quietly. I'm scared I've lost him forever. Then you need to respect his space right now, I advised. Let him process this in his own time. Don't push, don't make excuses, don't try to rug sweep. When he's ready to talk, if he's ready to talk, be honest with him. Really honest, maybe for the first time. Okay, Caroline said. Thank you. And Sophie, I really am sorry. About everything. About the way I've treated you over the years, about the comments I've made, about what I said about Emma. You deserve so much better than what I've given you. Yeah, I agreed. I do. We hung up shortly after that, and I sat staring at my phone, trying to process what had just happened. Michael found me like that when he came in from his morning run. Everything okay? Caroline called and apologized, I said, still somewhat in shock. Wow. Did hell freeze over? I laughed despite myself. She sounded genuine, broken but genuine. She's starting therapy. Good, Michael said. She needs it, but that doesn't mean you have to have a relationship with her. I know, I agreed. And I'm not ready for that if I ever will be, but I don't know. Part of me hopes therapy really does help her, not for my sake, but for Blake and Sophia's sake. They deserve to have a mother who isn't toxic. You're a better person than me, Michael said, kissing the top of my head. I'm still mad enough to want to key her car. That made me laugh, really laugh, for the first time in days, so that's where things stand now. Caroline has apologized and is starting therapy. My dad has apologized and is working on setting better boundaries. Blake and Jim are processing and healing together. Sophia is still working through her feelings. My mom is supportive. My brothers are supportive. And me, I'm okay. Better than okay, actually. I feel lighter, like I've been carrying around this weight of family expectations and toxic dynamics for years, and I finally set it down. Emma is thriving, completely oblivious to the drama, just happy to be alive and loved. Michael is my rock, as always. And I'm learning that standing up for yourself doesn't make you a bad person. Sometimes it makes you the healthiest person in the room. I don't know what the future holds for my family. Maybe Caroline will do the work and become a better person. Maybe she won't. Maybe Blake will eventually forgive her. Maybe he won't. Maybe we'll all find a way to move forward together, or maybe the family will look very different going forward. But whatever happens, I know I did the right thing. I protected my daughter, I defended my marriage, and I stood up for myself. And I'm teaching Emma, through my actions, that she never has to accept mistreatment, that her voice matters, and that standing up for what's right is more important than keeping the peace. And honestly, that's the best gift I could ever give her. First, the good news. Blake and Jim are doing well. They did the DNA test, and it confirmed what we all suspected. Jim is not Blake's biological father. But as Jim told me when he called to share the results, biology doesn't make a father. Love does. Blake is my son, full stop. They've been going to therapy together, working through the betrayal and the lies, and their relationship is actually stronger than ever. Blake told me that in a weird way, this whole situation has brought them closer because they're finally being completely honest with each other, maybe for the first time. Blake has also started researching his biological father, Dennis Hartwell. It turns out Dennis had a whole other family, a wife and 2 kids that Caroline didn't know about. He died in a car accident about 15 years ago, so Blake will never get to meet him, but he's been in contact with his half-siblings. They were shocked to learn about him, but they've been welcoming and kind. Blake actually met them last week, and he said it was surreal but good to see where some of his features came from, to have that piece of his identity filled in. Sophia has reached out to me a few more times. We met for coffee last week, just the 2 of us, and we had a long, honest conversation about everything. She admitted that she'd been seeing Caroline through rose-colored glasses, making excuses for behavior that was inexcusable. She started therapy too, working through her feelings about her mother and the lies and the whole situation. We're rebuilding our relationship slowly, and I'm hopeful about where it's going. She asked if she could come visit and spend time with Emma, and of course I said yes. She's Emma's cousin, and she's not responsible for Caroline's actions. Caroline is still in therapy, according to what I hear through the family grapevine. Jim has filed for separation, though not divorce yet. They're living apart and taking time to figure out if their marriage can survive this. Honestly, I don't know if it can. 30 years of lies is a lot to overcome. Caroline hasn't contacted me again since that one phone call, which I appreciate. I'm not ready for more than that, and I don't know if I ever will be. My relationship with my dad has gotten so much better. He's been making a real effort to be more present, more supportive, and more willing to have difficult conversations instead of just smoothing everything over. He and my mom have been amazing with Emma, and they've both been very respectful of my boundaries regarding Caroline. My mom told me something interesting last week. Apparently, after everything went down, she started thinking about her own experiences with Caroline over the years. She realized that Caroline had made comments to her too subtle digs about her parenting, her marriage, her choices. Nothing as overt as what she'd said to me, but still hurtful. My mom had always brushed it off, but now she's recognizing it for what it was, a pattern of toxic behavior. It's made me realize that Caroline's issues affected everyone, not just me. I was just the one who finally said enough. As for Emma, she's doing great. She's learning new words every day, taking her first steps, and bringing us so much joy. She has no idea about the family drama she inadvertently caused just by existing and being beautiful and perfect. I look at her sometimes and think about the family she's going to grow up in. It's smaller now, more fractured, but it's also healthier. The people in her life are there because they want to be, because they love her, not out of obligation or guilt. And there's no more big secrets poisoning everything. Michael and I have been talking about the future, about what kind of boundaries we want to maintain, and what kind of family culture we want to create for Emma and any future children we might have. We're both committed to honesty, to addressing issues instead of hiding them, to not accepting toxic behavior for the sake of family harmony. Someone in the comments on my original post said that sometimes families need to fall apart to rebuild themselves into something healthier. I think that's what's happening here. The old family structure, built on secrets and enabling and rug sweeping, has collapsed, and something new is growing in its place. Something built on truth and boundaries and mutual respect. Is it perfect? No. There's still pain, still healing that needs to happen. Blake is still processing his feelings about his mother. Jim is still working through decades of betrayal. Sophia is still figuring out how to have a relationship with Caroline while also holding her accountable. And me, I'm still learning how to stand in my truth without feeling guilty about it. I still have moments where I wonder if I should have handled things differently, if there was a way to make my point without causing so much pain. But then I look at Emma, and I remember why I did it. I remember Caroline's words, the implication that something was wrong with my daughter because of her skin color, the suggestion that I'd been unfaithful. And I remember that some things can't be let slide, some lines can't be uncrossed. I did what I had to do to protect my family. And I'd do it again. Someone asked in the comments if I'd ever consider reconciling with Caroline. The honest answer is, I don't know. Right now, I can't imagine it. The hurt is too fresh, the damage too deep. But I've learned never to say never. If Caroline really does the work in therapy, if she truly changes and grows and becomes someone different than who she's been, maybe, someday, for Blake and Sophia's sake if nothing else. But that's a bridge to cross way down the road, if ever. For now, I'm focusing on my little family, Michael, Emma, and me. I'm focusing on the relationships that are healthy and life-giving. I'm focusing on being the kind of mother I want Emma to have, the kind of wife Michael deserves, and the kind of person I want to be. And I'm at peace with my decision. Finally, completely at peace. To everyone who commented with support, who shared their own stories, who validated my feelings and my choices, thank you. You have no idea how much it helped to know I wasn't alone, that other people understood why I did what I did. To those who criticized me, who said I went too far or was too harsh, I understand your perspective. I really do. And maybe you're right. Maybe I could have handled it better. But I can only make the choices that feel right to me in the moment. And in that moment, with Caroline attacking my daughter and my marriage, I made the choice to defend them. I don't regret it. This whole experience has taught me a lot about family, about truth, about the cost of secrets, and the value of standing up for yourself. It's taught me that sometimes doing the right thing is messy and painful and complicated. It's taught me that you can't control how other people react to the truth, but you can control whether you're brave enough to speak it. Most importantly, it's taught me that I'm stronger than I thought I was. That I can stand up to family pressure, that I can weather criticism and guilt trips, that I can protect my child even when it costs me. And that's a lesson I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. So thank you all for coming on this journey with me. Thank you for listening, for supporting, for sharing your own experiences. Thank you for helping me see that I wasn't crazy or cruel or wrong. Thank you for helping me see that I was just a mother protecting her cub. And there's nothing more right than that.